Lore examines some micro miniature work tools and some fine grind quadratanium. Dr. Crusher pokes at Data's android alarm clock, and an away team visits where Data's functions were tested. And it wasn't Tasha Yar's quarters. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Wow.
Hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and this is definitely the first time I've ever said quadratanium. We're doing a review, of The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 12, Datalore, story by Robert Lewin and Maurice Hurley. This is teleplay by Robert Lewin again, and Gene Roddenberry, directed by Rob Bowman. This was January 16th, 1988. Very special thanks to Grandpa One, aka Tim Baum, for sponsoring this entire season. That's a mouthful. How you guys doing?
Yeah.
Wow. Top of the morning to you.
You got it. You did it.
So wow, Brent Spiner, huh?
Wow. Right?
Oh, do you remember anything about this episode before watching it, Denise?
My God, not a single frame. I mean, really not a single frame on this one. And at least I was somewhat present in the, on the ship. And, I finally got to nail a security question straight up to the captain, which was nice. However,
the response wasn't that great.
There were some questions about why I wasn't in full security mode when they would go to follow lore. Like, why would the first officer and Wesley go watch? The logic sometimes eludes me why they're not really utilizing full force security when they're going into an insecure environment or a potentially dangerous environment.
They used you and Worf in the away mission. I did love noticing that. I mean, but it wasn't for very long, right. But it was really cool to see who was chosen for that away mission. It was Worf, Tasha, Riker, Data, and Geordi. And I was thinking, this is a great crew right here.
Right. I mean, that would have been, insane if I wasn't part of that. I mean, but when they go to check, I mean, already Wesley has voiced some concern that,
right.
And caught on to these these contractions that he's using, these word contractions. And so is kind of called him out. And even Tasha has asked the question, do we trust? I mean, there's some issue here. I just don't know why she isn't in full, security mode. She should have been with them in that situation.
Yeah, this goes back to, I mean, they did more, but not enough, in my opinion. Right. So I was happy that they did more. So I have to acknowledge that, they finally used you more in a security capacity in this episode where you are, doing what a security, number one would do. But at the same time, they undermine what your responsibility would be, instead of Riker going with Wesley or Wesley being sent, even Wesley being sent to go check it out by himself was strange to me by the captain. What, you're going to send the youngest guy there to go by himself?
He was giving him a task. He was throwing him a bone, it seemed like. And even that other officer on the bridge gave him a smile like, great job throwing that kid a bone.
But not smart. I mean, that's
smart.
Dangerous.
This is like a critical thing that's happening at this moment.
Absolutely.
And you're dealing with Data, who clearly has the power to overtake somebody even like Worf in the elevator, right? So it just doesn't make sense that you would send the kid to do that kind of responsibility. You would send your security chief to go along with Riker.
Well, even at the finale, when you've got Crusher and Wesley and Data leaving to, deal with Lore.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got now a phaser on them. Why aren't you calling in Tasha? It's like one click away.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't she arrive after?
After the fact,
so they may have called them
already been
security,
winged.
and she probably called security, and then that's just when they arrived.
Well, Crusher ran out the door,
on fire, which is great.
Then she gets security, but they have the capability. I mean, Tasha should have again gone in with them, right from the start.
Right from the start, or once they're in that cabin space, that cargo space, then you see a quick line from Crusher. Beverly says, Beverly to security, we need backup. That easy, just one line to you to tell you that you come down here and bring some deputies with you. And that was the other thing I thought it was weird to see Riker and the captain coming alongside with you, as opposed to some of your deputies that would be. Yeah, it's like if you call the police, the mayor doesn't come.
Exactly. Of course, I'm telling you, it's really odd. I'm catching all of this now. Obviously, this many years out, and really watching it. With an eye towards just not looking for fault, but just noticing things that I certainly I don't have a sense I was aware of while shooting. There's so many moving parts, and it wasn't like, well, why aren't I here now? And I think there was some of that taking place on set, but it was just, well, this is how the script is, like, we're going to shoot it this way, and blah blah blah.
Yeah. The problem I had, since we're talking specifically about Tasha's character in this moment, I had a problem when you came up with the question of, how much do you trust Data? And you asked the captain at that moment, right? This is for security purposes, but I need to ask. I need to know this so I can make my own assessment on what the course of action is for me, which is great for your own edification in that moment. The problem I had with it was Picard's response after saying, I trust him, and there was a look around moment to the other people, and he says, but everyone should also realize that was a necessary and legitimate question. And that undermines you when he has to tell people that was an all right question to ask. That's fine. It makes it, he's excusing.
Yes, to justify it.
Yes, to justify.
And it should already be. It doesn't need justification.
It doesn't need
a legit
justification.
Question.
Yeah.
Your little, Wesley turns around at me.
Right.
Like, what? You're going to question me?
Wesley, the same guy who later on has no problem blabbing out whatever he wants to say to the captain when he thinks that Data is not Data, he blurts it out. He doesn't. He doesn't say, well, Wesley, that's a legitimate question, or that's a legitimate point. There's no justification needed, and for the fact that he's having to justify, no, guys, it's okay that she just spoke, it's all right. Yeah. She just, it's
Oh no, that's right. Such a astute observation on your part. Really, I didn't even. I was just. I felt it was just an awkwardly explored moment, period. It should have been, we should have really gone into that a little bit, more, like,
and let the tension play out. So I always look at it in the lens of Deep Space Nine. So I'm picturing in my mind, when I watch a scene between you and Picard, I'm thinking, how would have this same scene played out if it was Renee playing Odo and Captain Sisko? Mm-hmm. And if Odo asks Sisko, do you think you can trust, let's say, your father's character, my grandfather's character, Joseph? Sisko would look at him, and maybe say, "How dare you? That's my dad you're talking about." But he would also say, "Yes, I can trust him." But the tension would be something that would be used to carry the scene, like where Odo would not back down. Like, I have the right to ask that question.
Right.
And Sisko would be offended and say, "I'm offended that you question my father," and they would leave it there. They would leave the tension right there instead of trying to de-escalate it or explain it away, which is what Picard did in that moment, where he says, "No, everyone should realize that that was a necessary and appropriate or legitimate question."
Wouldn't it have been great if Tasha had said, "Respectfully, Captain, I don't need permission."
Yeah.
Or if she just said, yeah, I know, I'm chief of security, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Take a nap.
Wesley, what are you looking at? Yeah.
Exactly.
I got it from here, Picard. I'll be fine. Thanks.
Yeah.
Go read a book.
I know it's funny, but you're right. You're right.
Yeah. She doesn't need validation to ask a perfectly legitimate investigatory question, which is what a security officer would do.
Right.
Is this compromised? Yeah.
We're talking about the bridge. We're talking about the bridge. Is this bridge compromised? Yes, absolutely. And that's that's key. That's key to all our survival.
So I like the question. I didn't like the need to kind of support, the validate why it's okay to ask this question. There was no need for that line at all.
Right.
But now, having said that, I think that Brent Spiner in this episode did a fantastic job, and I was really blown away by his performance.
Me too.
How difficult it is to play a robot who wants to be a human versus a robot who's less human-like. I mean, that's pretty complex.
And he struck a beautiful balance between the two. There was enough of a difference when he's playing Lore, but it wasn't. It was subtle, but you got it was different.
Yeah.
And I thought he did just a fantastic job. What I was hoping to. It just the character of Lore, just very quickly it becomes very obvious that he's not a good prototype, not a good being, and it would have been nice to maybe have some more mystery, not really know yet. I mean, I found it just to be so obvious quickly that this was a bad guy. And it would have been nicer to just sort of slow that down a little bit, that we weren't really sure. I mean, we as an audience got it right away. The crew doesn't get it right away.
You're right.
But we're we're in on it right away. And I always like when nobody really knows. You might have some doubts. But where are those doubts coming from? Is that your own issues, and you work through that a little bit, and we play that out a little bit more.
Yeah, that's kind of the three ways of presenting a mystery. One is the audience knows, but the people in the show don't. So we're watching them find out, or hoping that they'll find out, or saying, "Don't go in the shed." Or we're finding out at the same time as the people. That seems to be the most common one. And then there's they know, but we don't. When they go, aha, and we're like, what? Tell us, what is it? And they whisper something or whatever happens. But yeah, I'll tell you though, I thought this was the best episode I've seen so far. I thought it was much better than I expected. Obviously, Brent was amazing. And by the way, this scene is probably the birth of the most commonly used Star Trek meme ever. Right here.
Okay.
There are a couple others that are really, really big, but this image right here is the most commonly used, I think, amongst the internet. And I'll tell you more about that. But what I really liked, that I think maybe this is just what tricked me into thinking this was the best thing I've seen so far, was the scoring. The music was just, it was just unreal. The scoring and the directing. Obviously, Brent, having fun, showing off his acting chops was great too.
Right.
And the stunt at the end. But that music scoring was just, it felt like I was watching a movie from the 80s, like Gremlins or something. You know what I mean? Like something like I'm watching Gremlins, or I don't know, what was another one like that? Critters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that's what it felt like.
I noticed the scoring as well. The music did help the story a lot, and just pushed it, complemented it really well. But I thought the best thing was the choreography with the fight scenes and whatnot. Like the elevator scene where the Worf comes through with the two hand and the no, it was not advanced. The fight scene was so cheesy with the two guys in the elevator. One guy's boom, the other guy's like this. The thing that I really liked was I thought Brett carried it with the performances. It's not easy to make these subtle changes from one character that you always play to this other kind of twin-like character, evil twin-like character. And I thought he did it as well as you can do it, especially under the robot profile. So he's doing a robot kind of android version of it. So I enjoyed that. I thought that's what carried the show for me, even more so than the music. Just that Brett was so good, and that also it was easy to distinguish one from the other at some point because of how he was playing it.
Yeah, he brought a lot of a lot of heart, to Data. You felt his vulnerability and a kind of an innocence, a sweet innocence. You cared about Data in a way that, you're all up to this point, you're really getting to know his character, but this one really brings a kind of tenderness to this little creature, that was built and left behind and has an off switch, and it's really it's a very sweet openness he brings, and finds a great balance of that in his acting. Really,
like an innocence,
really,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there is an innocence to Data that he
really
plays
coming through.
That really comes through in his performance, and that played out when he is actually hearing Lore tell him about all of the flaws that he has. You don't pronounce words like this. I use conjunction words like can't, and you say cannot, and he's basically making him feel bad about himself, right? He's that the evil version of himself that's trying to make himself feel insecure or less adequate, or there's something wrong with you, Data, because you are always like this, and I'm like this, and I'm like that, and I have these qualities that make me better than you. And that's where Data plays this innocence of not knowing, the innocence of not knowing.
And it's a beautiful scene, I thought, when they're in the conference room with the captain and Riker and Geordi, and Data, has been brought in. And they're really trying to be able to talk openly in a way that is, we're going to put our discomfort on the table. It's uncomfortable for us to come here and try and ask you certain things, and it's probably uncomfortable for you to be viewed as a machine and not one of us. But remember, we're just different. We're electromagnetic, you're not. And let's just put it out there. It was just a really nice way of getting through that. And it again showed Brent just played it in such a simple truth. He didn't try to, when they asked him, does he have all of your body parts, referring to obviously, is he anatomically correct?
And by the way, we saw a big white booty when they opened up the storage locker. Did you see that? It had like a head and some arms, and there was just a big white plump booty right there.
Well,
you never heard that song? Data Got Back?
Yes, very nice. Very
and he could have answered that in so many various ways, but it was just so sweet and innocent. He was just, yes, I'm everything's the same. Exactly. And it was just the other three guys are just like cringing, just,
yeah,
we gotta go there.
I could just see the Starfleet personnel that has to put the data together. They're like, so where does this go?
Where do you think, bro?
Oh, speaking of bro, I could have used a lot less brother. They were that brother thing was getting really tired.
And Geordi said a strange line where he says, "Oh, my brother, that's got a nice ring to it," or something like that. I got to find it in my notes. But did you catch? He was just like, my brother. I like that. I think I'm going to use that.
I mean, I was like, oh God, the first scene when Lore and Data are talking, and it was just, well, brother, and every other word was brother. So, okay, oh God, okay, please, no, just stop.
Let's not do this.
Yeah,
they love each other.
One brother too many.
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother. Yeah, but there was a lot of backstory that we got on Data's character too, though, that we never really had before. We got the whole Dr. Nguyen Sung story, kind of growing up on this colony and being, developed by this robotic engineer. Just backstory on Data's past, that he was downloaded with these 411 with the colonists' memories. So I called him Mr. 411,
the information. Very nice.
Yeah, it's got the info. But yeah, I just thought little things like that gave us backstory. And that's what I look for too when we're talking about character development and giving me something to kind of hold on to as the story goes forward. It lets me know, okay, this is where he came from. This is his backstory. This is what motivates him. And this is his background. And we got that with Tasha's character, and we're just now getting this with Data now. Like, okay, this is interesting to know. I mean, that even has an off switch, and just little things like that make you know more about a person. I enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
It was a little weird though for him to have like an off switch. Just kind of like felt like it was kind of just out in the open. He's just got like a hole in his back, and then she's just kind of like prodding around in there. They do use it, I believe, in future episodes. He's got like another button to open himself here, and a little thumb thing for he's got all kinds of gadgets. He's like Inspector Gadget with buttons that are hidden everywhere. It's kind of cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
3 steeds.
I wonder if Tasha reaches behind him and like go faster.
First, show me the off switch.
Yeah, that's the safe word right there.
Yeah.
Everybody, we have to go to a break before things get worse real quick. We'll take a super quick break, everybody. We're also going to talk about memes, because everybody watching this knows. They're like, oh my God, this is the scene, this is the moment. Or as Roy Orbison would say, this magic moment, right? I think that's him. We'll be right back on the 7th rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby. We're learning a lot today.
Yeah, we're learning a lot.
We always do.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so here are the trivioids of the week. Data wants to be alone. Data is practicing his sneeze. Data was found 26 years ago under a layer of dust. An away team visits where Data's functions were tested, and no, it wasn't Tasha Yar's quarters. Data acts like an art critic. Humans are just a different kind of machine. Dr. Crusher pokes at Data's android alarm clock. Picard calls Lore it. Lore knows basic algebra. Geordi thinks my brother has a nice sound to it. Lore examines some micro miniature work tools and some fine grind quadratanium. I wish I didn't write that down. Anyway, that's what we've got there. Well, you guys want to hear? I've teased this enough. So what people use this.
What do they use that photo of? What are the words that they're going with? Well,
it's specifically, especially for when people create some text that can be taken two ways. For example, you say, this guy says, Guys AC Protective Services. Data says, guysac.com. Lore says, guysac.com. See, so he just reads it improperly. Or, for example, this thing says, a new start, right? Data says, a new start. Lore reads it as anus tart.
Wow.
So that's what, so that's what it is. They just read things that are, maybe aren't very obvious.
Right.
Or like, for example, sometimes you just have to show it. Like it says strap on time. And you don't even have to say how they're taking it because Lore's taking it the wrong way.
Wow.
Have to. So anyway, it's those kind of things when what's this one, for example? Sisko, the best of them all. And of course, Data says the best of them all. And he says the best of them all. So they just, that's the joke, is Lore reads things the wrong way, or maybe, in some cases, the right way. It just goes on forever. Oh, this one everybody knows, though. Tasha Yar, not a computer programmer, loves data entry. We know, but that's not.
Oh my goodness.
That's neither
pornographic. My goodness.
But that's not a Data Lore one. Anyway, so anytime somebody has like a license plate, or they write something creatively, but you read it differently, or it can be read, differently, that's when those two rascals come in.
Becomes a loreism.
Right. Oh, one last one. Sorry. One last one, just to get a better idea of what we're talking about here. For example, like this one is supposed to say school supplies, right? So he says school supplies, but Lore reads it Shospolkolopis, because anyway. That is fire all over the internet. Trust me.
Can't end on that one. Go back to the Tasha one.
Yeah, I like the data entry.
Yeah, absolutely. What are we talking about? That blows any of those loreisms out of the water.
It really does. That's one of the best.
Although anus tart is an interesting concept.
Some of them get really raunchy. That's why I didn't want to pull some of them up. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Those other moments that I enjoyed as well when I was watching this. The one that I'll say is when Data was telling Lore, what it takes to wear the uniform. And he says, if you want to do it the way I did it, it'll take you 4 years in the academy, 3 years at ensign, and 10 to 12 years on varied space duties at a lieutenant grade. And I thought, boy, that's a really good way to kind of break down the kind of sacrifices people make to get into Starfleet and to earn their way up and to become what they are. And all the more reason for me when you see characters like Wesley, who are given so much more elevated respect, and kind of their opinion is his opinion is given more weight than somebody who's put in that kind of time.
Right.
4 years in the academy, 3 years at ensign, 10 years on a various spaceship. That's like, that's a good 7, 15, 20 years of your life, to get to that position, to be able to make the call on certain things. And it shouldn't be taken lightly, nor should it be undermined by somebody who's just, the whiz kid who doesn't get, who gets to surpass and fly past all of that, training and expertise.
You should have been like, "Are you listening, Wesley?"
Yeah.
And it also, it gives the audience, a framework, in which to view what these guys have been through. It also told me something about Tasha Yar, that she must have hit it pretty young, in this, which begins to start to make me think that if she, it's like she got off Turkana 4, the failed Earth colony, at 15. I think she went right into starting the academy at 15, because that would make sense about her age, because I'm like, I think 29 here, so I mean, if you just do the math.
Yeah, I'm looking her up. It says she was 27 when it started. The character was 27, so she was 27, 28 there. But I'm trying to see if it'll actually say her career. But yeah, if the character is theoretically 27 years old, I'm assuming this has got to be her first chief
command position. Absolutely.
And you were on the fast track. You had to have been advanced, because you would have had to have been, at least judging by this, between 17 to 19 years worth of input to get to the level that you're at. Right. So you would have to be 35, let's say, to be where you're at.
Right.
So you must have been fast track because you were advanced or, excelled in studies. So that's the kind of work that it takes, Wesley, to get here.
So what are you looking at, Wesley?
Don't question my questions.
Exactly. Okay? Wow.
So
it's a whole other framework.
I thought it gave perspective, because there's a lot of people that give us that kind of service and sacrifice in their life in order to get in the, to work their way up in the military. And it's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, and you have to be good at what you do in order to make these grades and to earn those pips on your collar. So I definitely thought that gave a good perspective for me.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, it's also a nice technique when talking with somebody. Like if he's talking to somebody like Lore, he can't fully get a gauge on him. If Lore says, "I want to do this," or "How do you do this?" and Data just says, "No, it'll take too long. Forget it." Like maybe Lore's gonna like fight him about it or feel insulted or whatever. It's a better technique to say, "Okay, sure, absolutely. Here's what you need to do. This and this and this and this," and wait for the other guy, in this case Lore, to go, maybe I'll just stick to these weird gold robes instead. That sounds like a lot of work.
Right.
Where's my crystal at? Where's my crystal?
Right.
I love the whole "make it so" moment with Picard when he tells him, "Make it so," and Lore kind of looks at him like, "I beg your pardon, do it." The whole "do it" was funny to me. But on a serious note, also, this was a moment that I thought, this is great writing. I don't know if they knew how great it was at the time, but this was an example for me of the kind of foresight and the kind of forward thinking that Star Trek is known for. And this was the moment. It was when Data says to Captain Picard, referring to him as it suggests I too fit in a category of a thing.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, here we are actually talking about pronouns and identifying someone. And I thought that Data did a great job of sticking up for himself and saying, referring to him as it suggests I too fit in a category of a thing. Yeah. And to be objectified as a thing takes away my humanity. And I thought, what a great moment.
What a contemporary moment.
Right.
What a preview of what conversations are happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I thought that was forward thinking of them, and great to talk about a person's humanity and how it is connected to language and how you refer to people and how it could either build them up or break them down or feel acknowledged or feel invisible. And, the power of the language to be able to do that, I think just that moment, I know they didn't probably think that we'd have a day where it was so relevant, but the fact that they added that into this scene and in this episode, I gave them a huge amount of credit for, because we all want to be recognized and feel human. We all want to feel like we're not just it or that, or something that's not a human being. Yeah, something that's not a human being or less than. And I think that was a great way for Data to speak up on behalf of himself and speak for his own respect and identity.
And it was beautiful that Picard was able to apologize for it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But it was a little telling, though. Why does Picard call Data him and call Lore it? There's some kind of disconnect, conscious or subconscious, or I guess I should say unconscious, where he's trying to kind of, well, this is Data. He's our friend. We know him. We call him him. He's asked to be called him, whatever it is. But this guy, I'm not so sure. I'm going to keep calling it like may have been just like an unconscious bias where he's just like, until further notice, it's an it. And just a quick story. I've got a friend of mine that works at Home Depot, and they have robots that stack things and move things and actually go through the store in the off hours, and they're putting up boxes and organizing things and scanning things. And people naturally call it a him or a her. Like, that's the natural inclination for humans, even if it's just a boxy robot that doesn't even look like a human, just a box. They still say, oh, he's over there or whatever. They don't say it. It's like a natural human thing. And so taking that further, Picard's kind of going against what would be a natural human reaction to see something that obviously looks like a male robot that is the brother of something that he calls him. So for him to call it an it is going against his natural inclination. So there's got to be a reason for that, that he's trying to kind of keep it at arm's length or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think part of it is, the whole assembly of Lore, because they found Lore disassembled. And so, they didn't see it in his final state. So it may be more of an object or to them,
Yeah, and they've bonded with Data at this point. They're working in tandem with Data. It's blurred now. You don't call Data an it. It's like they've probably, he probably doesn't even, he forgets half the time that, it's even an android. He's so becoming, he's constantly working on trying to humanize, himself, that it's beginning to happen. It's in their minds. Right. I mean, I'm sure it's starting, it blurs somewhat. I mean, you just think that I'm going to go back to the Naked Now, the fact that, Tasha would call in Data,
she doesn't think of him as an
that's blurred. That is really blurred without getting, way into Freudian analysis. But, there's something to be said about, they don't have that connection with lore. But you're right. He's being built in front of their eyes, and they discover Data whole. Data comes to them. They didn't discover him, but he comes to them whole. And that's gotta be,
and to the writer's credit, they acknowledged it with Data saying, "Hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable," and Picard, instead of resisting and fighting it and saying, "What are you talking about, Data? It's just a robot." He acknowledged and said, "You're right. I'm sorry," and moved on. And I thought it was on both ends, they sticking up for yourself and acknowledging that you were wrong. Both were good. And I love that part of the language of it. I thought it was just appropriate for not only that time, but as well as for this time as well.
Absolutely. Good point.
We also got Chief Argyle, the chief engineer. He was back. I thought we were going to be done with him, but he's still kicking. And that other lady, I can't remember her name, who's like the second chief officer, and she's got like a Mac in her name. It's like Lieutenant. Mac something.
She played by Brooke something, right?
Everybody in the live chat or in the comments below, help us out. We're having a problem with last names today.
And don't they? And they refer to Asimov's positronic brain.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know Isaac Asimov's writing enough to say, is that a real thing? I mean, did he, in one of his stories, posit this kind of,
that's a great question.
McDougal.
Oh yes, good one.
I think I just Googled. McDougal, I believe is her name. I'll check on her
we saw her earlier. Name. Yeah. In Encounter at Farpoint, maybe.
Brooke Bundy. Got it. You were right. Brooke Bundy.
Yeah.
See, I thought the whole "shut up, Wesley." Is this where it comes from, or is it just a constant thing throughout the show?
Well, it was said 3 times in this episode, but I feel like it was said a few more times, at least once more. It wasn't just one episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we see it, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
I thought, it was kind of cringy for me when that happened. It was just a bit much. It was a bit much from the captain.
Not very professional.
No. And it really bothered me when the mother said that, when Crusher said it to him, right on top of that.
Yeah, but you know what? I would take it a bit more from a mom than in a professional environment. But to your credit, it felt like more to me too, because she's piling on at that point.
Well, and it's just a little rough. Picard out on it. She looks at Picard and says, "Shut up, Wesley." And then they try to make this a joke that fell flat on its face, because then he starts again, and she repeats what she's just called Picard out. That obviously made her uncomfortable.
Yeah, I did not.
I don't get it. I did not get that.
Yeah. First of all, as the leader as the captain and the leader, I think it would have been appropriate to tell Wesley, if you're going to address the captain's son, then you ask for permission to speak freely, and you instruct him on the way to interject and speak your mind, and you educate. That's what adults' job is, to educate children on whatever the etiquette is, or whatever the manner is, or whatever the procedure is, or whatever the protocol is, or whatever the safety guidelines are. Our job is to instruct and educate and say, hey, no, you put your seatbelt on, put it like this, and you put the visor down. You tell somebody as a leader. And so in that moment, it could easily have either Riker or Picard could have said, Wesley, if you want to address the captain and you have a grievance, you say, you ask for permission to speak freely. You do it in this kind of manner.
Or his own mother, Crusher, was on the bridge, could have easily said, excuse me, Wesley.
That's not how you. That's right. Yeah.
I mean,
that's why we go to 4 years in the academy, 3 years as ensign
to learn how to talk to people,
to learn how to address people properly.
But I mean, I was taught as a young girl. I mean, you don't tell people to shut up. You don't use those words.
Yeah,
I certainly pass that on to my son. You don't tell someone to shut up.
It's rude.
It's rude.
And it's also an unintelligent way to get somebody to understand something, or to get your way. If you want to get your way, you can, in a very educated way, explain how it's going to go on around here. It's not going to go the way you're thinking, where you can just yell things out at me, Wesley. It's not going to happen.
Plus,
like
Picard needs to lead by example. If he's trying to get the kid to be more professional and more respectful, then he needs to be also professional.
Yeah, it just illustrates once again his intolerant, his quick temper, his berating this child all the time. Yet he's always there. And he's only saved you 9 out of 10 episodes.
9 out of 10, including this one.
I mean, he was saving the day on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at some point, you gotta
he saved the day. Wesley? He called out Lore.
Yeah,
he was the one who said, this is not. I'm telling you, this is not right.
And he actually called it out in the beginning, which I loved that too. By the way, that scene was great. I love the way Wesley says to Lore when he first discovers him, and he says, if I wasn't, the way you kind of use those words, I would suspect that you were Lore. And it was a very good way to show Wesley's quick observation skills, and also to tip Lore, these are my tells, so I have to fix these tells.
The twitch and the whatever.
The twitch and the conjunctive word use, can't instead of cannot. But I thought that was a great scene, really well written. Wesley nailed it, but shut up.
I was really creeped out by that one. That was just a sour note.
Well, let's get to our home run of the day. We got to roll out in just a second here. What do you think, Cirroc? Who gets the home run today?
Brent Spiner gets the home run. It's not even, when you have to play in all the scenes, and then you're playing opposite yourself in a lot of the scenes, so you're delivering the line and responding to the line that you deliver, and have to show enough variation in between the two that it's believable. That's a challenge for anybody, and I thought that Brett did it as well as you can do it. So he gets an A+ in the home run for me.
What do you think, Denise?
Yep. Oh well, without a doubt, Tasha Yar. No, for sure, Brent. He just was just delightful to watch. I don't remember how this episode played out, so it was just wonderful to see him in his full capacity as an actor, and he did just a tremendous job. There were so many colors to the performance, so much heart, so much wit, so much rage, and he just pulled out all the stops, sang a little, got his little licks in, and just not those kind of licks.
Lore would be like this about that.
So for sure. Right.
For me, the home run of the day, the musical scoring, I think that's Ron Jones. Everybody correct me if it's not. I think that's Ron Jones. Just blew me away multiple times. It kept grabbing my attention multiple times. And I think to me that made it just a better episode than it would have been overall. Not just making a enhancing a good episode, but I feel like it actually upped it a different level, made the scenes for me seem more important, more powerful, more stressful, really more so than I'm used to music scoring. It was really good. And also Bob Bowman, the director, because I feel like he probably has a hand in that. I don't know how involved he is with that, but he's got a hand in making these scenes more tense or more stressful. So very quickly, let's give a very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ, Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neil Akasaka. Oh, I was waiting for it. Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach-Heid, Jed Thompson, Luther Haynes Jr., Dr. Courtney Lewis. That's got to be a singer. Beth Ernest, right? Dr. Susan V. Gruner, and Jason Okun, of course. Everybody stick around. We've got the free-for-all up next. It's going to be rowdy. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule. This is the free-for-all. Of course, Denise Crosby and Cirroc Lofton are here, the pillars of justice and strength. Guess who else is here? Melissa Longo, Goldu Scott Jensen. We've got Eve England out in Wales, Dr. Susan V. Gruner with a radical background. We've got Allison Leach-Heid as well with an awesome Ferengi Eyes shirt that's green, everybody. Stephanie Baker is here with the meme background. Oh, an Uhura shirt.
Nice.
Jason Okun is here with his weekly poster background. Pretty cool. Carrie Schwent is here with the Chicago Cubs very green shirt. Mr. Matt Boardman looks like he's got a Seventh Rule hoodie made by Melissa.com. It's really walking art made by Melissa at the Introverted Republic. Dr. Courtney is here. Looks like she's back from Oklahoma. Faith Howell is also here on the bridge of the Enterprise D. Mai is, guess where, live in Tokyo. Homer Frizzell, the new meme himself, has got his Sir Patrick's Day shirt on. And the dark one, Chris McGee, is going to teach us all something today. So, first of all, we've got a non-appearance mention. Did everybody catch it? We had one, I think. It was Dr. Noonien Soong, right?
Okay, so I hate to be that guy, but does it actually count if we haven't seen him yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just watching them in order, it does.
It
Seriously?
does because there will be an actor that plays him eventually. So
who's the actor?
I disagree respectfully.
We'll get a Melissa meme that says yes under it with an exclamation.
You need that one of Patrick going.
We'll call it a nyam, not yet appearance mention.
Yeah. A nyam would be fine.
Nyam.
And Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I think this is going to be like a 7.5, 7.6.
Anybody else have any guesses that doesn't know?
6.3.
7.4.
8.0.
Whoa.
Oh.
Eve, did you just throw shade and say 6.3?
I did.
Wow.
You guys just need to keep copying off of Cirroc's homework. It's a 7.6.
Nice.
wow.
He's looking them up.
He's got a knack.
I'm really not.
Yeah. You take that shade.
I'm just in tune with the people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it.
All right, Melissa Longo, do you want to get us started? You're in tune with the people too. What's up?
Sometimes I'm in tune with the people. Other times I don't know where I am. How's it going? I'm doing all right. This episode, the thing I like about these episodes and this episode is that I like that there is a spirit of exploration, and that exploration is woven in to the day-to-day experiences of the crew. And that exploration then leads to conflict, which I think is really rich, because in that exploration and in that conflict is where we learn how to coexist with other beings that are different from ourselves. And so that's what I overall got from this episode. I did like it overall. There were some things that had me gave me pause, but we'll save that for the second part. And but yeah, overall, I think it's a good episode, and I like the exploration, and I like the day-to-day, and because
that's a different episode.
Because that's where we find the character and where relationships are built, and those are the things that I enjoy watching most is relationship and character, and learning and growth and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Great stuff. Thanks, Melissa. What's up, Goldu Scott Jensen? You've seen Data's Day. You love that episode, right?
I love a lot of Data stuff. I really love this one because it was a classic evil twin story. Had a lot of fun with that. And I also love, particularly, we talked about this, I don't remember where the episode was, where Cirroc, where he played 3 different people. He played Jake and the Paw Wraith and the Prophet all in one. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing that. And I remember as a kid, this absolutely blowing my mind, the camera tricks for all this. There's really 2 of them. Does he have a brother? Does he? And Brent Spiner absolutely killed it with Lore. I forgot how much I love Lore, and I particularly love the line at the end where he says, "I promise him exquisite pain." So wonderful and mustache twirling villain. I absolutely loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Can't wait to see more Lore.
Uh-oh.
But he's gone permanently.
Yeah,
he's totally dead, right?
Spoilers.
He's totally dead. Like every other Soon and every other version of Data. Yep.
Thank you, sir. Everybody knows Lore is gone permanently, so that's that. Jason Okun, what's up? How are you? What do you think of this episode?
Good. I think I've always enjoyed watching it. I think, over time, perhaps it hasn't aged as well as many others have. It's certainly fun it's absolutely wonderful to watch Brent do his thing. And it's the first time he sort of showed his the evil twin, his evil twin acting. And it comes back a few more times, obviously, but it's certainly fun to see that. I think, I really like the way the music was arranged in this episode. I think you see some of that in the first maybe 2 to 3 seasons, and then it becomes sort of this. It loses its edge. Basically, it becomes more like background rather than actually helping to tell the story. I think that disappeared slowly. Certainly, I think it started in the 3rd year and got a little bit more bland as the years went on. But I think here it's played to good effect. I mean, it's. I think the way they did this split screen was great. I mean, it was the eye lines were matching, and it was pretty well done. It's certainly, again, it's a fun episode to watch. There are some things in it that perhaps story wise not the best, but again, if you just sit back and enjoy, and it's relaxing and fun. And I guess everybody who was in the episode had things to do. And Denise, I think you had a little bit more to do in this one than the previous one. Which I'm sure was nice. I mean, how was
much saying much
in terms of seeing sort of Brent do his thing, sort of go out of the Data character and do something else? I mean, was it fun to play with that on set?
Oh yeah, I mean, again, I wasn't engaged. He was by himself for most of the bulk of the episode when he's doing data and lore. But I think that he really had a nice juicy piece of meat to chew on, and he enjoyed that. He got to, we were talking about it earlier, there was just so many different colors he got to hit as an actor. The innocence, the kindness, the vulnerability of Data comes through more, we're seeing in this episode, as opposed to just this fierce rage and this diabolical presence of lore. And he even got to do a little song. He got to throw in his little Broadway chops in there, and I just think he really had fun. It's funny though. I texted Data. I texted Brent. Oops. Don't tell him I said that. I texted Brent the other day because I was hoping, if he was available, he was going to come on today and for the first segment and join us. But he's in Kansas City en route to a con. And I said, we're having this amazing time. I haven't seen these episodes in 36 years almost. And it's just a trip watching them. Wow. And he goes, I think I've seen maybe 10 episodes over the course of 36 years. Wow. And he goes, which is Datalore? Like wink, wink, nod, nod. I mean, I was laughing because I don't remember a single frame of this episode. Not a single. I can't remember going onto that set, that laboratory, or having that moment with Picard. It's such a trip. That, like, I don't know if it's a natural thing that happens. I mean, I know a lot of actors have that. They can't tell you a thing they've done. They don't remember a single episode of anything. Hopefully if we just shut it down, if we just hit erase after a certain amount of time, just to get more in, I don't know. It's so fascinating, the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would have been fun. Would have been cool to have Brent come on and try to recall all these things.
Well, maybe there's something down the line, we can do.
Here's hoping. Thanks, Jason. Stephanie Baker, what's up with you? How you been? And what do you think of this episode?
Hi, everybody. When I watched this growing up, whenever I think of it, I just think of the crystal entity, like a la Friends, the one with the crystalline entity, and kind of scares me. But when Jason was talking about the music, I wanted to add that Evil Lore had his own evil theme that was very synth, and it was creepy and very 80s. And it was kind of funny. But the one scene that I really liked was when Lieutenant Yar questions Picard about trusting Data, right? And then everybody looks. They do that, like those close-ups of everybody. Like Wesley looks and Geordi looks. I think somebody else looks. And I thought it was super funny. And then why are we like questioning trusting Data when we should be questioning trusting Lore?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And Lore, meanwhile, is like has the run of the ship. They show him how to fly the ship. They like barely are watching him. I thought that was funny, but also like, is that like something they let slip by, or they just let it happen so the story would continue? That's it.
Got to be the latter, I would think. They're just like, we just whatever's better for the story. Who cares about the details for like 2 seasons?
Right.
Thanks, Stephanie. Allison, how are you? What do you think of this episode?
Doing well. I like the episode. It is fun to watch. I really like the use of camera angles. Like you get all really, really close on Lore all the time and kind of tilted it so it always felt just a little bit off. I thought that was a nice touch. And the use of mirrors, or the mirror, in Data's quarters where you have Lore in the front and Data in the back and going, they're the opposites of each other. So I thought they used cameras really well for that. Great way of showing the duality of the two of them. Mm-hmm. So that was, and of course, Brent is always fun when he gets to be evil. So that's always fun to watch.
Yeah, that mirror was really cool. I noticed that as well. That was really good stuff. Great camera angles and like the close-ups with some kind of different lens on Lore that just kind of makes us feel a little weird about him, right?
It like made his eyes just a little bit uncomfortably big. And I missed Joy. It would have been nice to see her. She probably would have had a great little scene with Data about, hey, this is your brother. How do you feel about this? Or, but
it's true.
What can you do?
Dr. Susan V. Gruner. Thanks, Allison. Dr. Susan V. Gruner is here. What's up, Sue? What'd you think of this one?
Well, I love this episode. And along with what Allison was saying, I absolutely love the mirror. And then when I was thinking how much I love the mirror, I thought, why does Data need a mirror? He doesn't care what he looks like. Anyway,
the practice of sneezing.
Yeah.
I thought Brent was fabulous. I love the good and the bad. I too wonder, how do they do that? I know there's a technique that he doesn't have a stunt double that does all that, does he? And they like do a split screen or something like that. This is so far out of my wheelhouse. I don't know, but I just loved it. I love the crystalline entity. I thought it was beautiful. I love the music. And I think we're getting into the good stuff. And I have some other stuff that I'll say, details stuff. They are paying to details, but they did miss one, but I'm saving it.
Ooh.
Cool.
Did you hear that, Eve? Thank you, Sue. Sue said we're getting into the good stuff, and you called it a 6.3. So, explain yourself. How are you?
Well, it's better than a 5.
Yeah. I like the premise of this. There's a few things that I'll pick up later, but I mean, overall, like I said, I think the idea is really, really good. I think what was interesting in the companion is that apparently it was Brent who suggested the idea that Lore should be his evil twin. Originally, it was supposed to be a female android, so they ended up changing it quite substantially from the original idea, and I think that was definitely a good call because I did like that sort of interaction and seeing them and seeing the different options of how they might behave in different scenarios. So I thought that was really clever. Again, the music was fantastic. That first scene when you were all in the looking at the lab, and I just got super sort of alien vibes from that. I thought something's going to jump out and something's going to start taking them all out, but obviously I was wrong. But yeah, sort of the music, and it's quite sad to think that the music's going to start changing and going into the more sort of stuff we're probably more used to in some other shows. But yeah, and I thought it was like I said, it was fun, but it had some gaps. But I'm certainly glad that the evil twin storyline was changed, because I think that was the best part of the episode.
Awesome earrings, by the way. Those are the Klingon bird of prey, right? That are cloaking.
I know.
All right. Thanks, Eve. What's up, Carrie Schwent? How are you? Great background, great shirt, great hair. This is fun. What do you think of this episode?
I love this episode. I share Scott's love of Lore. I was talking with my husband earlier today, and he's got what I called it kind of an oily charisma. Like he's got great charisma, but there's something just a little bit sketch about the charisma. And I've got a couple things that I'll save for later, but I'm going to read off my limerick, which is going to segue into the main thing that I wanted to talk about. So we've got Data discovers that he has a double. Once he's assembled, Lore causes some trouble. Wesley suspects something's up. Picard tells him, shut up. Turns out Lore was not very humble. And the thing I wanted to focus on was in addition to Brent Spiner, Wil Wheaton just absolutely shines in this episode. He stands up for himself, and people keep just dismissing him. And the whole "shut up, Wesley" that line just has always bothered me, and way too many people in the decades since use it to just bully the hell out of Wil Wheaton, and I feel terrible for him because of that. And he's tried telling people that he doesn't want anybody to say that to him anymore, which unfortunately hasn't stopped a few online trolls. But yeah, Wil Wheaton absolutely just shines in this. And then Mom starts to tell him to shut up after calling out Picard for saying it. You said, okay, you're telling my son to shut up, and then he starts to say some more, okay, shut up, Wesley. And I'd like to hope in the turbo lift down to his quarters, she apologized to him. And Picard should have apologized to him, but he never does. He apologizes to Data earlier in the episode for calling Lore it. But all Wesley gets by way of an apology is, you ready to go back to work, kid? But yeah, I adore Wil Wheaton. I'm so glad they got him for next year's cruise, because he was awesome on the Big Bang Theory playing himself.
Sounds like a tough task. Great stuff, Carrie. Thanks very much. Matt Boardman, what's up? How are you? And what do you think of this episode?
Hey. I think this is a gem of the first season. I always loved Datalore. I think it's cool because up until this point, we really haven't gotten a whole lot of backstory on any of the characters. I mean, we know a little bit about Tasha because they like to hammer it home to us that she was, in very unfortunate circumstances with the rape gangs. I mean, that's you should play a game and take a shot every time they mention that. But I love that we get this kind of origin story of Data, and and he has that moment on the bridge where he sees this planet where they found him, and in a way he's kind of like, well, I'd say home sweet home if I understood the meaning of that. But I think it's great. Like everybody else has said, we get to really see Brent have a lot of fun in this episode, and he does it so well. And there's always a little bit of a twinkle in his eye and a smirk when he's playing Lore, which I think is great. And like everyone else has said, I enjoyed the music of it. This is another Ron Jones scored episode, and
okay, good.
And I always thought
I was wondering if that was Ron.
Yeah, I think he always brings a very rich texture to the episodes through his music. But I'm a big music fan in movies and television shows, and so I think his music in the first few seasons was always top notch. But I really think that this is a gem of the first season, and it sets up a lot of stuff for the rest of the, well, not for the rest of the series, but this stuff that plays throughout the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff. Thanks, Matt Boardman. Courtney, what's up? Welcome back to forgot where you are, but you're no longer in Oklahoma. Welcome back to not Oklahoma.
Thank you. I made it out of Oklahoma alive, so that's most of the battle sometimes.
So what'd you think of this episode?
So I agree. This is a fun episode. And it reminded me of The Big Goodbye in the way that Brent was having such a good time with it. And it kind of allowed him to, break out of the usual character. And it's important. And that's something that we can talk about later as well. And it's important in a couple of ways. The writing can be not smooth in spots. That we can talk about later, but the one thing I found kind of odd in rewatching this episode was the general portrayal of human nature through this kind of twins lens. So you have the good twin, evil twin, which is pretty typical, but here it kind of assumes an inherent goodness with Data, which at the end Riker calls him very well balanced, which I was curious about. Like, what is this, the balance that he's seeing with Data? And Lore identifies himself as completely human, right? Which seems to mean kind of this inherent terribleness and a penchant for arbitrary murder. And this is, of course, according to what Lore is perceiving as human nature. So I thought that was interesting because Star Trek usually takes a different kind of angle at humans. So is this good versus evil? Is it neutral versus evil? Neutral versus human? I'm still working that out, but yeah, I think that this is a really rich episode, and it's going to seed almost every series that comes after it. Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Courtney. Faith Howell is looks like she's piloting the Enterprise D. Welcome back. How are you? What'd you think of this one?
Need to get over in my chair, I guess. I enjoy this episode. I didn't remember Lore coming in so early in the series, so it was interesting to get to notice that he was there from season 1. I don't really enjoy a lot of Lore. I don't think I'm supposed to. He's, chaotic evil, so that's like the opposite of all the things that I believe in, but it does make for a nice story. I also noticed that it was interesting how Picard was like, a couple episodes, no, we don't have time to stop and investigate this completely uncharted area of space when he's with the Traveler. But hey, let's go back to Data's hometown and, fart around for a while. That's completely fine. So I thought that was an interesting, inconsistency in his personality so far. But yeah, other than that, it's developing nicely. I am liking the episodes more and more as we go through.
Thank
I have
you,
some
Faith.
more to add, but I'll save it for the extra.
That's only the 4th time we've ever said farting around on this show.
Awesome.
What were the first 3? You'll
Except
just
for
have
the
to
round
watch.
tables.
Yeah, that's true. Mai is live in Tokyo. What's up, Mai? What'd you think of this one?
I liked it. Every time I watch this episode, I'm struck by the benefits of having a similar but different version of yourself. In looks, 2 people can be the same, but they differ in one key respect. They differ in their essence or their soul. And every culture addresses this. And just in the languages of the cultures and backgrounds of the people here, it's sometimes called for you, Ryan, alma, nefesh, tamashi in Japanese. In Amharic, I don't know how much you know that, Cirroc, the language of the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. It's called nefs. And in the language of our newest members nation, Galav Diadato. I hope that sounded all right. And in English, it's soul. And Lore is Data physically, but his soul is it's offset by 1 or 2. And so Lore is therefore different in some key respects. I mentioned benefits because I feel that a situation like this makes a person very lucky. They can learn what they might like if they have different traits. They can learn what they want to adopt for themselves. I always wanted a twin sister to learn how to be a sister. Alas, they can learn to take the good stuff, or they can learn what they don't like, and in so doing learn to appreciate themselves and love their own traits. And this is no small thing because it's so hard to love ourselves sometimes in this world. So I think, as I often do when I watch this episode, that Data was one very lucky being, and I bet he appreciates himself much more for it. Those are some thoughts on that.
Great. Thanks very much, Mai. Chris McGee is here. He knows a lot about souls, and he's got a Quarks mug. How are you? What do you think of this one?
Doing pretty well. Real quickly, by the way, turns out we're Twinkies today. I got my first merch in finally.
Hey, we did it.
The self-sealing stem bolt shirt.
Yeah.
Which everybody you can find in the description box below. There's a link to this store. You can get your very own self-sealing stem bolt. the seventh rule shirt or hoodie. Sorry about that. Chris, please continue.
Awesome. Don't apologize. That was awesome. So as both Jason and Stephanie mentioned, I think the music in this was top notch. Ron Jones really outdid himself with this, especially when they were on the planet. I don't know if anyone else recognized this, but I could definitely hear some similarities to Jerry Goldsmith's score on Alien. And it was almost uncanny how similar the musical cues were there. Loved that. Also, thank you, Carrie, for bringing up the fact that there was no apology to Wesley from Picard nor his own mother. And I can understand maybe the captain issuing an apology, at least not in public. That could, maybe weaken his image or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I definitely hope his mother apologized to him later at some point. And before I get to the last point, I will mention my phrase of the episode, which thankfully is not the one that has haunted Will Wheaton's life, but one that you might not think is a memorable one, but it is memorable to me, and that is, and the square of the hypotenuse of a right triangle is equal to the sum of the square of the other two something, which I once heard but never understood. The last point was, I wonder, did Yar find Data's off switch in the Naked Now?
She found his on switch.
Yeah,
definitely that.
Yeah,
definitely functional.
Maybe he just wouldn't shut up about how great it was, and so she had to turn him off. I don't know.
I didn't need to use it. No.
We were calling it the safe word. Homer, what do you think of all of this? Do you agree with what has been said?
So sometimes there's a lot that's covered, and I agree with some of what has been said and some of not what has been said, and some that shall go unsaid. But what I will say is that since I don't really have much to say about the episode itself, but I enjoyed it. It was suspenseful. I have a question for Denise, and this is something that I've always had a question about as it relates to Star Trek, especially The Next Generation. Was there a particular direction when you get into the turbo lift? Do you go in and turn to the left and turn around, or go in and turn to the right? And the reason I ask is that ordinarily I see people going in and then turning to the left. So they're going counterclockwise themselves. But I noticed when Wesley did it, and he was excited, I think, to go see Data, he did the opposite of what everybody else does. He went clockwise when he turned around to face the door as it closed.
I think we've all had this question, right? Please.
Yes, it's been keeping me up at night for decades.
Let me try to break it down for you, Homer.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's we were.
Answer is
no. Yeah, nobody ever gave us any precise choreography, so to speak, to move about. There were times when I had just done something and had a very strong directive to go into the turbo lift to get something done, and the doors don't open. So you're like trying to, that those were always fun moments. I think too, the natural inclination being right-handed is that you move in you turn around in a counterclockwise way. If I'd be curious, I don't remember if Will is left-handed, which would his natural way would be to go that way. So that's usually it's just such a natural rhythm that you don't even question it. You just move that way, being right-handed.
The internet does
I
say
will-
that yes, he is left-handed. That's I
That's
can't confirm that,
That's
but that would be a really
there you go.
good
That
catch.
that makes perfect
Very
sense.
good
Why-
observation.
why-
Good answer.
Good.
Good
I have
answer.
an autograph for
Good
this
answer.
There you
left-handed
go.
kid.
Knowledge.
No, I mean,
Thank you.
it's just instinctual at that point. Yeah.
That's right. That's really interesting. I remember seeing that in
Good
mosh pits.
observation. Interesting observation.
If you
Yeah.
watch mosh pits at concerts, they do go counterclockwise because
Mhm.
people are naturally, 90% of people are going to be right-handed. And I always
Right.
wondered if that was connected to that, and you seem to be confirming that. Good stuff.
Yeah,
there.
my son is left-handed, and so he just does everything so wonky and weird. It's just the way his
lefties.
brain is wired, and so different. And you start to notice how he just does things so differently.
Mhm. In skateboarding, right, Scott Jensen, we call it goofy-footed.
Oh, I was definitely.
Surfing
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts, Denise and Cirroc, before we roll out?
Well, again, this was just like seeing it for the first time. I really enjoyed watching Brent really get to play and everything. I wondered where Marina was, where Troy is. Isn't this now the second episode? She's not been in. And I don't remember. I couldn't tell you what the deal was there. I know she's the only one that I've seen that happen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
She would have been able to solve the riddle of whether that was Data or Lore by sensing whether they were
maybe
truthful.
Does she sense Data's emotions? I don't remember.
Right. I don't know.
Oh, Lore's. It's all mechanical. So
Lore definitely has emotions.
Yeah, but Lore maybe, because if he's got, well, I don't know.
Or human, if he's gleaning, because he lived with the colonists. So he's human. I don't know. That would have been an interesting, But I just technically, I can't figure out, did she have some sort of different contract? I don't know that, she's not in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember ever having that conversation or being aware of it.
She's definitely a series regular under that contract because she is under everywhere saying, uncredited or where she's credit only is what they say if she's not in the episode, but she still has the credit of being a regular.
Yeah, it's just right. Yeah. But it was really interesting. The shut up Wesley, we talked about that a little bit. It really is bothersome, in this time watching it for me. It's so out of character for Picard to say something like that, or such a weakness in his character. I would have imagined going through what he's done to be this captain at this class of ship, that it was so cringeworthy. And then for Crusher to echo it, it just really, really is a harsh moment for me in this episode. That maybe because I'm a mother and I was certainly taught never to tell someone to shut up. It just was such a false note in this episode for me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Cirroc, what about you? Any final thoughts?
I'm gonna do a final thought on the great crystal entity. I felt I could have gotten more explanation as to what it was and what the motivation of Lore trying to get close to it. I didn't really, this great crystal entity apparently wants human sacrifices to be made in its name. I just didn't see enough of flushing out of the purpose of this crystal entity, what it was for, what it was doing, and what Lore was trying to get in touch with it for or about. So I kind of was left a little bit vague on that. It didn't give me enough. But I'll leave it at that. The other thing I'll say too is I did look up the Isaac Asimov's background, Denise, because you mentioned that, and it is Isaac Asimov is credited with being the first person to invent the word robot or robotics. So the robotics comes from him. Also, the positronic brain is something that was developed in theory, the brain that would power an artificial intelligence robot like Data. So this is actually drawn from early science fiction written by Asimov in the 1940s and 50s. So I thought that's a really good kind of call for them to pull that reference, a real, source, something that actually exists, something that. And by the way, Asimov's predictions of the future of robotics, of computers, were all pretty accurate, including space travel. So this person, Isaac Asimov, was very ahead of their time as far as, predicting the course of where we would be at into the near future. And I thought that's a great call for them to kind of use that name, use that background, use that actual historical reference, and incorporate it in the show. So I enjoyed that as well.
Isaac Asimov.
One more note on Asimov. Interesting. Of course, his science fiction writing is legendary, but he took every single Shakespeare play and analyzed it in an. I have the book. It's out of print. It's the one book I never let anyone borrow because it's out of print. And here we're echoing Shakespeare. It's just, if you're going to see a play of Shakespeare's or, read a play of Shakespeare's, I can't do it without going through Asimov's breakdown of it first. Because he takes, scene by scene, character by character within its historical context, what was happening at the time, why this king might be calling on this queen, at the time this was going on. It just is so rich. So if you're ever in a used bookstore, look for a copy of this. It's magnificent.
Like the Mystery Pure books from our buddy last week.
He may have that. In his store. Yeah, exactly.
Harvey Jason was his name. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you to Melissa, Goldu Scott, Jason Okun, Carrie Schwent, Eve England, Sue, Allison, Stephanie, Matt, Courtney, Faith, Mai, Chris, not Homer. We'll see. And Homer Frizzell, of course. We'll see you all next time. And until then, everybody, always remember the 7th rule.